Okay, so now we have this idea about creating a glass panel or a solid panel. I see I wrote this as isolation. That might be something good to change that to. And then we're going to feed it into this, the thing that's actually going to create the panels. So the idea is that we're going to use a rectangle by width and length. We can set its length. We know that the width is at 3.9. The length is actually in the other direction. It's in the, not in the Z direction, which is the height of the panel. So we're going to set the, and you'll see this when it visualizes, we're going to set the length as being the brightness. That's how thick the panel will be. We're going to make a surface by patch, which means we make that rectangle a solid, and then we thicken it the thickness or the depth that we want our panel to be. So we'll go ahead and create this kind of a definition right now, and you can visualize what's going on here. So let me pull this off to the side, and let me quickly change this to selection. And let's start by making a rectangle by width. I probably have to put more in here. We want rectangle by width and length. By width and length. Oops, and we need a coordinate system. Width and length and coordinate system. Remember, we created that, what we're looking at behind us, that's the coordinate system. So actually we can feed that in right away. So we have our coordinate system. We'll grab that out. We're going to make our width a fixed amount. So I'm going to use a number. That's 3.9. That's 3.9 feet. So that leaves a little bit of a gap between each panel. That 3.9 being almost 4. That's going to be our width. And then we're going to have our length will be ultimately that list that, oops, I'm sorry, I was going to pull this from the wrong place. We'll start by pulling out the solid panel and putting that into the length. And we'll go ahead and run this. And now we have a bunch of rectangles based on that, the criteria of whether there is a value there or not. But it's only the depth. You can see how the depth, let me see if I can rotate this around. Okay, so one of the errors I see right now is there seems to be a rectangle forming for every panel, and I'll need to figure out what's going on with that. It's almost like it's not getting the 0 value. So let me figure out what might be the problem there, and I'll get back. Actually, there might not be a problem. It's just that 0 just means it has no thickness, and it still might just display properly. So I'm not going to panic yet. Let's go back to our building our definition here. Let me move this over. So we're going to make a patch out of this again. So we'll do patch. That means we're taking that rectangle and making it into a solid. And then we're going to do a surface thicken, and just extrude it out. Surface dot thicken. And we're going to give it a certain thickness, and that's the height of the panel. So I'm going to just use a number. Remember, they're 1 foot on spacing, so we don't want them touching. So I'm going to do 0.9. That'll be the thickness. Let me zoom out here and move this over now so we can take this surface and plow it into here. I'm going to turn off the surface by patch. We don't need to see that. We no longer need to see the rectangle. I turn that preview off, and I'm going to go ahead and run that. And now we have a ton of solid panels. And they're all solid panels, so I don't exactly know what's going on there. Let me try to figure it out. Okay, so this took me about 5 minutes to troubleshoot. And it goes back to that, and you're kind of going along with me. I have the same kind of issues with learning this software. But actually, when things happen wrong, it always seems to come back to the same thing: flattening of list not lining up with other lists. And it turned out that one of the things that I planned on doing, and I'd mentioned, was that we needed to flatten the surface array list so that we had not lists of lists within inside of each other. So I added this list flatten here, plugged that back into the coordinate system. So we're still pushing the same thing, but now it's just a single list, not a list of lists. And that cleared everything up. So now we have showing just the solid panels that we want. And we'll be ready then to look at creating glass panels next.